After all of this poetry reading, I had to pull my hair back. It's just too rainy out, and for people in Austin, I don't mean rainy street. It's just a rain fest going on right now, so anywho, I thought that I would share with you poetry from the book Every Event of the Year, Volume 1, January through June, and I would look for poems from April for you. And the first one I thought I would do, well, it would make sense, would be from April Fool's Day. And that is a poem that's called Ask Me If I'm a Truck. This is the 2019 April Fool's Day edit of it. And this is one of the cool things about books like this. If I have images for the poems that have appeared on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and Tumblr, I would put them on there as well. And I'm going to arc my page, show it to different cameras, ask me if I'm a truck. I have no idea what this is showing you, but then I show it over here. If you can see it, I have to look and see, can I see this? And it's just a picture that says, ask me if I'm a truck. And there's a poem, and when I've got images and I do stuff with computers, I guess I'm going to try to incorporate being socially distant while being very technologically media heavy in my socializing. I'll share that with the book for you as well. I'll try to combine the old with the new. This poem is called Ask Me If I'm a Truck, and this is the 2019 April Fool's Day edit. So I worked for years part-time with about 10 guys in an ice cream parlor, since the owner assumed that guys were stronger. Guys could scoop the ice cream better. That was his idea. But they all screwed off while they were there at work, and they would write messages and tape them to each other's backs. One April Fool's Day, I wrote on the back of a candy box paper, "I'm a boy with raging hormones." And for about an hour, every customer that was there had a good laugh at Matt's expense. But my favorite was when I put on John's back on April Fool's Day. You see, John used to tell everyone the same joke. He'd say to you, "Ask me if I'm a truck." And when you'd ask him if he was a truck, he would just look at you all perplexed and say, "No." Like, why did you ask me that? So anyway, I got a signature on his back that day, and that said, "Ask me if I'm a truck." And for the rest of the day, all these customers did. They all got really confused, but they all just asked him, "Ask me if I'm a truck." And John was totally confused because he didn't tell anyone to ask him if he was a truck in the first place. It was absolutely hysterical. You think about all the fun jokes that you can pull on with people, and that is totally one of them, I will tell you. And I think what I'm going to do for the next set of poems for you guys is a couple poems that were also in the most recent issue of CC&E magazine. They were ones that were for, let's try April 3rd, because that's the day that Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was actually arrested. And in honor of that, I had written this piece called Kaczynski's Manifesto. As a journalist and as a woman who wants to share their story with their literary compatriots, it seemed fitting to include the Unabomber's Manifesto in the, get this, electronic version of my literary magazine. Oh, is that not a stab in the back for the man who hated technology? As a writer, I try to get the word out to as many people as I can. So sure, I choose to sell my soul and succumb to the World Wide Web as a means to an end. And although the expanded audience is great, you do lose humanity and interactions with people on the other side of the planet that you'd probably never actually meet. By the way, the only reason I ever got a smartphone in the first place was after a move across the country and looking for a home when I was alone. So I suppose I'm a Luddite at heart, and I can totally comprehend how, when I want to have my own space, how too many people can be too much of a problem. If I wanted to be left alone, if I was trying to shock the system and I was trying to keep my space, sure, I'd remain unkempt. Even Albert Einstein didn't worry about his looks or getting out of his pajamas when he was writing his manifesto. Now, I still even wear my Vegetarian Planet hoodie sweatshirt and call myself the Vegetarian Unabomber, but I lack the sunglasses from those police sketches of him, and I suppose I also lack the bombs. Unless it's the bombs of what I write. If only people would read my words. If only people would react, respond. I wonder if he knew what I'm only beginning to understand. That sometimes words are not enough. Sensi's Manifesto, indeed. Well, that was on April 3rd, but on April 4th was Hug a Newsperson Day. Since I was a news editorial journalism major, I like that one. So this poem is called Journalists Revealing the World. As I said, this one also appeared in the most recent issue of CC&D magazine that is called Aesthetic. And you can either pick up that copy of that book, which I believe is right here. You can pick up Aesthetic if you would like, through Amazon or through Scars.tv. Or you can actually also, if you're interested, pick up a copy of every event of the year. I shouldn't be showing it off so much, I should just be reading to you guys. This is called Journalists Revealing the World. When researching and releasing the news by breaking the story, say, of academics' exploitation of funding from the original desired location, it might not sound like it's groundbreaking material, but that is at the heart of what we journalists do. We find clues and we piece together the whole truth about what's going on behind closed doors that they don't want you to actually see. Back in the day, that's what they taught journalists, journalism majors at the third news ed college in the United States. Because back in the day, before there were bloggers who snooped and called themselves citizen journalists, back in the day when people took the concept of journalism seriously, freedom of the press meant something, and it was something vital here to preserve our freedoms and our rights. And that was our oath as journalists, to tell you everything we could so that you could make truly informed decisions. And we'd be locked up to protest or to protect our sources because, as I said, we made an oath that is what is best for all in the world. Once people were tracking down a Nazi killer, a Nazi Jew killer, when he was stationed in Rome, who escaped persecution, fleeing Germany and Italy. When ABC News reporter Sam Donaldson joined up with the Nazi hunters on their final leg of their quest, they cornered the Nazi captain Erich Prepke, and he found him on the street. The people who tracked him found this man, and they were stunned when they heard this American television reporter fire one question after another at this man, not allowing him to rest on any of his responses. Because, you see, when it comes down to it, that is precisely what we do. We do everything in our power to get all of the answers and bring them all to light for the world to see. Looking for a more modern story? Okay, fine. When reading the Wall Street Journal one day, and yeah, I actually read the paper. I unfold it, flipped it, and I bend it, the cumbersome paper, because that is what it's all about when you want to get the full story. Well, I read about how reporters kept perturbing app builders for Facebook until they uncovered that the apps were collecting and storing data from people using their apps to share with the world, which they had no right to do. So yeah, it's nice to see that journalism still knows what journalism means, and they'll do whatever it takes to get to the heart of the story. And sure, when you thumb through your paper, you will still see me, and you don't just rely on your phone, if you actually still get a paper. But you may pass the reviews of concerts or recent television shows, because really, how newsworthy is that? But as frivolous as those things may seem, it's still a part of trying to keep you as well informed as you could possibly be. It's the least we could do. And sure, there may be a lot of talking heads out there on cable or once cable has rejected them, they turn to internet podcasts. Wait a minute. That's how most nobodies start their trek to fame, quote unquote fame, by spouting all of their ramblings on a podcast, hoping that people will actually listen, which is so different from radicals like the Unabomber, who hated technology, who had to use the New York Times and the Washington Post to get his manifesto out there. And it's only when his brother read his manifesto did he realize who the Unabomber really was. Wait a minute. I just brought the Unabomber story up as an example of abusing the internet as a form of mass media, but now I realize that this is another way the press can be helpful at uncovering details and revealing truths. Guess they did that with the Unabomber. And maybe this was the reason that the founding fathers made a point to include the freedom of press in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, because somebody has to keep the government and major corporations and eccentric rich billionaires under watch. And us journalists are more than happy, and we're more than up to the challenge. So if you see a news reporter or a journalist, maybe you could thank them or give them a hug, because we need them to make sure that everything stays in check for everyone. It makes me glad to know they exist, because our world wouldn't be our world without them.